there is an Israeli missile that attempts to assassinate the negotiators in Qatar, and Netanyahu comes after the fact and says this.
We went after the terrorist masterminds who committed the October 7th massacre. And we did so in Qatar, which gives safe haven. It harbors terrorists. It finances Hamas. It gives its terrorist chieftains sumptuous villas. It gives them everything. So we did exactly what America did when it went after the terrorists, the Al-Qaeda terrorists in Afghanistan, and after they went and killed Osama Bin Laden in Pakistan. Now the various countries of the world condemn Israel. They should be ashamed of themselves. What did they do after America took out Osama Bin Laden? Did they say, oh, what a terrible thing was done to Afghanistan or to Pakistan? No, they applauded. They should applaud Israel for standing and up to these same principles and carrying them out. And I say to Qatar and all nations who harbor terrorists, you either expel them or you bring them to justice. Because if you don't, we will.
Okay, that I'm gonna come back to this, the second comment there at the end, his second comment at the end, or his final comment there. But let's back up again and tell me what you think about his comparison of Osama bin Laden with the Hamas negotiators in Qatar. Are they the same things?
First of all, the Hamas negotiators in Doha, in Qatar, that is the political wing. That's the political wing of Hamas. Okay, the Al-Qassam brigades, the military wing, is based in Gaza. Okay, and they're fighting in armed by. I'll go by the United States. The UN Charter. They're technically, according to the UN Charter, they're fighting an armed resistance struggle against an illegal occupation. That's not my definition. That's the UN and multiple UN resolutions. So they're not the same thing. And by the way, where is the righteous indignation about the founder of Al-Qaeda in Syria, the deputy head of ISIS, who is sitting as president in Damascus? Like, where is the righteous indignation there? If it's about, quote, fighting terrorism, it's not about fighting terrorism. What Netanyahu does, and this is a president who has basically shirked his anti-corruption trial. He's wanted by the ICC as a war criminal. His country's in the dock in the International Courts of Justice for genocide. And he's putting on this kabuki theater that somehow Israel is defending the world against terrorism. What Israel does, and repeatedly has done, is to assassinate the counterparty that they're supposed to be negotiating with, so that there's no one else to negotiate with, so that they can turn to the world and say, they just don't have any leadership, these Palestinians. They don't have anyone who can negotiate. They've done this time and time again. And so they're doing this now. And previously, one of the clips you said, or one of the people claimed, I can't remember who it was, this was President Herzog, the Israeli president, came to Chatham House in London and just said yesterday, the day before, that Israel has never rejected, has accepted every offer of ceasefire or peace from Hamas, and that it was Hamas that broke. This is a total bold-faced lie. Well,
and as a matter of fact, we do have one soundbite from that interview where the questioner said, hey, when you guys kill the negotiators, how's this going to get to a negotiated settlement? And he, oddly enough, said this will actually help the peace process.
Was it just a great big signal to the world that there are no circumstances in which Israel will do any kind of ceasefire deal with Hamas, given the fact that if they turn up to discuss the proposal, you try to kill them?
So as was said beforehand, of course, I wasn't involved in or aware of the operation, but because I was traveling here, but I would say clearly that this actually can be an opportunity to get to a deal, and Israel made clear even yesterday and today that it's open and wants to get to the deal. The deal is the end of the war, the exit from the war, and a hostage deal. Let's analyze Khalil al-Khaya, for example.
Yeah, you called it a kabuki dance. That is just, that's more like a Twilight Zone deal that is so disconnected. You said, yes, he asked him, how can anyone have a deal with you when you kill the people that are there to negotiate the deal? And he says, this can help get a deal, and here are the terms. I mean, I don't, help me out here, man. How does that work in real life?
That has been the Israeli tactic for time immemorial, which is to eliminate the counterparty you're supposed to be negotiating with, and then again turn to the world and say, "Oh, we don't have anybody to go. We don't have a partner in negotiation," says Israel. They do this all the time. And the other thing that they do, they conveniently omit from all of their commentary and discourse, including Netanyahu, is they don't mention the fact that all of these potential negotiations with Hamas involve Palestinian hostages, of which there are upwards of 10,000 held and illegally detained without charge, including hundreds of children and many, many more women, in this chain of this gulag detention chain that Israel runs and has been running for decades. And that's been part of the negotiations. That's why the Hamas fighters, etc., took hostages on October 7th, so they could use them as leverage to get their people released from Israeli detention prisons. They're being tortured, they're being raped, etc. This is all well documented, and you can look at it in the Israeli press. They've documented the human rights violations that Israel's committed against Palestinian, we'll call them hostages because they've been kidnapped off the street in many cases and not charged, put in front of military kangaroo tribunals, and then held indefinitely in some cases. I
actually saw an Israeli press this week, actually, that there was a lot of anger in Israel because apparently some of their Supreme Court justices said that you have to feed these prisoners that you've taken and you can't starve them. So that's, I guess that validates what you just said.
Yeah, and so that's part of the negotiations. That never gets said. No one in America, free. Trump did it again. He said, we need to free the hostages, free the hostages. It's a great soundbite. But what does it actually mean? There's two sides to that, free the hostages. And Israel has killed so many of the Israeli hostages, have already been killed by Israel. And I'm sure they know the vicinity of where they are, but that hasn't stopped them from carpet bombing those neighborhoods, including the Bibas family, which everybody made a whole theatrical drama about in Israel and the United States. And it's been shown beyond any doubt that they were killed in the children and whatnot. Their remains were returned, but they were killed by Israeli strikes. And not only that, they're starving the population. So if you're intentionally causing a famine in Gaza, you may end up starving the hostages, the Israeli hostages. I mean, it's like common sense stuff. I don't know how
one last question. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you short there, but the last part of that Netanyahu bit I played a second ago, where he just laid out to the entire Middle East and said, if you don't take care of these people according to what we think you should in terms of bringing people to justice, we will, no matter where they are. And on a CNN interview, I think it was yesterday, the Qatari foreign prime minister rather was interviewed, and he's not taking it too well.
The attack that happened on Qatar territory, it's happened on our sovereignty. This is number one. Number two, Qatar is a mediator that's been mediating many conflicts. Qatar, when Hamas office was established, was done with coordination, request by the Americans, by the Israelis. They've been using it as a communication channel for them, for Gaza, for all those years. And I'm sorry here, any Israeli politician who today is trying to, to portray himself that he's away from this. This happened under Netanyahu's government, under Bennett government, under Lapid government, under Netanyahu's government again. Any agency says that no, they are not involved. It's not true. Mossad, Shabak, and the Ministry of Defense were involved in that.
Yeah, so Netanyahu's sitting there and he's accusing Qatar of harboring terrorists, and then the Qatari saying, you asked us to do this. America asked us to do this. We're doing what you wanted, and then now you come and do this. Patrick, is there any limit to what the Israelis can say in profound violation and contradiction to known truths?
The answer is absolutely not. And what makes this even more ridiculous is the fact that Qatar is a U.S. ally. They host a major U.S. military, an important U.S. military facility for the entire Middle East. U.S. military footprint is predicated on cooperation and good relations with the country of Qatar. In fact, those U.S. forces in Qatar helped Israel during the Iranian missile salvos. Okay. And the British use that facility as well. They're flying rivets and all these other aircraft there. They're helping to sort of map the battle space in the sky, refueling, all of these things. So now Qatar even, what's the point of being a U.S. ally if Donald Trump or whoever the U.S. administration is can't protect Qatar from a direct strike from Israel against political officials, not militants? The militants are in Gaza. I mean, this is like basic stuff to try to explain to, Trump or whatever. That the worst thing was about this is Trump put a tweet out, or a truth or whatever he calls it, Truth Social. And it was just this groveling tweet that he put out saying that, I'm not happy with what happened, but it wasn't my decision. It was Netanyahu's. I mean, it's like total humiliation for a U.S. president. I mean, you're really hitting the lowest point. This is the lowest ebb you could possibly have, where you have absolutely no clout whatsoever. To me, this is just the ultimate humiliation for the United States under Trump.
Well, and let me ask, I mean, what is your view? Is this either that Trump is on board with what Netanyahu's doing, and so he just says these things because really he's in part of it, or is it because Netanyahu is calling the shots and Trump just can't do anything about it? I mean, which of those two might it be?
I don't know, Daniel. It could be either or, but both of those are unacceptable. Both for the United States of America, both of them are unacceptable because it's bad optics. It's not just bad because of what happened. It's bad because what does that say for other relationships that the United States has? Very tight cooperative relationships with Saudi Arabia, with Kuwait, with all of these other countries in the region, with Egypt, all of these countries in the region. Jordan is another one. Jordan. What if Israel all of a sudden gets a bee in its bonnet with the king of Jordan and just decides they're just going to launch an airstrike against something that they don't like in Jordan, or Jordan, the king says something bad about Netanyahu or whatever, or says he's going to bring humanitarian aid to the Palestinians or feed them. Oh my God, we need to launch an airstrike against Jordan or whatever. That's where we're heading, the total anarchy in the region. So all of these things, here's the point. This is the point. All of these agreements, treaties, relationships, both in the United States in terms of, free speech with students on campuses, or international agreements, or all of these international law, all of these things have been wrecked. All of these things have been undermined, have been clipped, have been sidelined, all to protect Israel. Everything. It's just, it's unthinkable. The amount of damage that's been done internationally to the international system, to the legal frameworks, to the Genocide Convention, to the Human Rights Convention, to the United Nations, all of it, to the U.S. Domestically. Marco Rubio's threatening people for, being whatever, supporting Palestine and deporting people for writing op-eds. All of this to protect Israel, going after countries with punitive sanctions, attacking your allies because of something they don't like, attacking South Africa for filing the case in the ICJ, sanctioning UN envoys so they can't come to New York. The U.S. has done all of this. Why? For one country, for Israel. And that's a country that is in the dock for genocide. I mean, this is just a really shameful episode in history.
Yeah, and Gary, if you can put that back up there, that Truth Social, because I think it's important. This is what you were talking about a second ago. This was a decision made by Prime Minister Netanyahu. It was not a decision made by me. And then he starts to go in a good direction, unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation, a close ally of the United States that is working very bravely and hard, blah, blah, blah. But then he just shifts gears. However, eliminating Hamas, who profited off the war, is profit off the misery of those living in Gaza, is a worthy goal. Well, then you basically said, yeah, you attacked a sovereign nation. I didn't have anything to do with it. But hey, that seems cool. I mean, eliminating Hamas is a good goal. So I sent Steve Witkoff back out there.
It's a cop out. And not only that, he didn't write that. I'll bet you that was written by the Israeli embassy or some Israeli communications person, because that's the same talking point. They say Hamas is profiting off the misery of Palestinians. It's a complete lie. All the money that goes into Gaza passes through Israeli hands, by the way, before it enters into Gaza. And they say that all the Hamas political negotiators are billionaires living in the lap of luxury in Doha. Have you ever been to the UAE or Doha? If you're in those cities, there is only one lap you can sit in, and that is a very high standard of living. They have modern apartments and accommodations. They're not going to be living in a tent.
There's only one lap to live.
Are they going to live in a tent in Doha Square? Will the Israelis be happy? Well, they could probably drone them if they're outside living in a tent. But the whole way they frame this with Hamas, the political wing is ridiculous. You know what? The Israel lobbied to the U.S. and Britain and European countries to proscribe the political wing of Hamas and Hezbollah as terrorists. And our governments capitulated and accepted that so that they could do exactly what they're doing here, kill them. And that's, if you want to really boil down the strategy of Israel, that's what it is. And so they don't have to negotiate. Then the political process is dead, that the other side can't have any political organization or representation. Everything is criminalized, including the Gaza Ministry of Health. Tom Cotton and all these people talk about the Gaza Ministry of Health, the people digging out bodies out from under the rubble from U.S. F-35 Hellfire missiles and so forth. They call them Hamas-controlled Gaza Ministry of Health, not a reputable source. The death tolls that they're citing are fake. It's Hamas propaganda. That's what our elected leaders have been doing consistently for the last 3 years. It's despicable.
Yeah, if anything,
it's criminal what they're doing. It's criminal.
Just look at the Lancet. But yeah, that's not a very pretty picture in terms of ending the suffering of the Palestinian people anytime soon. And I guess we're just going to have to keep doing what you and I are doing here and bringing a light to the truth and telling people, look, listen, at some point, we're going to have to stand up and put some pressure on all these governments from the people, because otherwise they're going to continue going down this murderous path. And it's going to be a very dark future for us all, indeed, if we don't get that fixed.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, we appreciate that. Thanks so much for coming on, Patrick. I mean, this is a tough discussion today, but it's one that's desperately needed, and we really appreciate the clarity you bring onto it because our folks really appreciate that. And we suggest everybody go to 21stcenturywire.com and the Sunday Wire with Patrick Henningsen there. You can see on the screen. You can get it more than you as much as you want from Pat. You don't have to wait till he's back on our show again for all of our folks there. I know that lots of stuff on there that I sometimes go and watch it. Thanks a lot for coming on, and we'll look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Daniel Davis Deep Dive.